and I'm gonna be talking about common errors people make, especially the beginners in C language, and I'm gonna be giving you guys example and how we can fix this problem. So first of all, let me write the first mistake. In our first video, we talk about semicolon. So we talk about semicolon, which is this when I said is very important because it's just like a full stop you put at the end of statement every time you write in an English sentence. So this is also important for C to understand that you've done, you don't write in your sentence, so it can execute what you want him to do. So the first problem is semicolon. Um, at the end of every statement, you have to indicate semicolon, telling C language that you are done. You are done talking about the task. So I'm gonna give you guys the example of error. So we're gonna be using online debuggers because actually I use VS Code, which is Visual Studio, but that's gonna be complex for people who are just trying to learn C language. So we're gonna be using online debuggers, and I'm gonna be indicating that here what kind of error. So first of all, you need to indicate library, and this I'm gonna be explaining the library. The library is just like normal library where we put books. You see a lot of books there, different names for books like Harry Potter. You can get any books in library, which is normal. So if you need to read any book, or you need to get a book, how you trying to take a book on a loan, you go to library and request for this book, and you tell them the kind of book you want, and they tell you if they have this book or not. And there are different library, like in school, every schools have library, and the type of book they have is not the same. Let's say in my school they have some books like Harry Potter. You can go to another school that have a library that doesn't have that type of book. So each library have different book contents, different books they have, so that's just how library also work in programming language. And when we talk about library in programming, we're talking about functions. So it's actually a book where functions are stored, a book that actually contains functions, and these functions are just like the test commands and what it means. Like what I said in my last video, I talked about when a, like if I say hey, it means skip this video. um that a, the meaning of that a might be in a library, which means in this library it's gonna have hey, and it's gonna have like the meaning of that hey means skip the video. So if a meaning, like if the meaning of a is not in that library, C is not gonna know what a is. You know what I'm saying? So that's also how library works. I'm trying to talk very fast because I don't want this video to be very long. So that's how library actually works. So library contains a lot of functions. Sometimes we call them modules. So library contains a lot of functions, and just see library as a normal library where we have book. But in terms of library in computer science programming, we're talking about a library that contains functions and it's not book. So semicolon, let's say the first library we normally use that's most common is include stdio. I'm gonna be explaining all this, guys. I'm gonna be explaining. So if you're confused, if you're actually confused at this stage, don't just worry. This is one library we use, and this library, it contains print function. It contains function that tells C to display a values or to display anything. So let's say I'm telling C to display something, and what we normally use to display something is actually print function. So print function. So this print function, we use this to display something. Let's say I wanted to display to say hello world, uh, world. Um, this is the print function. So this is print. So this print, it actually means I'm telling C to say this, just display this for me, hello world. And the meaning of this function is actually found in this library. So if you don't if you don't pull this library if you don't pull this library, C is not going to know what this is. So if you don't pull this library, which is include stdio.h, C is not going to know what this means. So this library actually now is actually has both both print and scan function. So it has both print and scan function. Scan is when you're trying to take in values. So now it's giving me hello. Now I'm telling him to take something. You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about this part. But I'm just trying to make reference for you know scenario where people make mistake. So let's say I'm telling C to print hello, and at the input semicolon, and let's see what's gonna happen. So now we've seen that it throws an error, and even this program is totally wrong. I'm just trying to make errors. So first of all, the first problem here, I need to put integer, which is the main function. So you have to say something, you have to type in something like this, which means you're trying to tell him that here is where I want you to perform task. So all this, I'm gonna be explaining this, but I'm just trying to list the common mistakes people make, especially for beginners. So main function, this is actually the main function. So I'm trying to tell C to execute anything I'm writing here. So you have to put semicolon. Semicolon is trying to let him know that this is the task, and I'm done saying what I want you to do. So just move to the next. So it's gonna execute this one. Then when it gets here, return 0 actually means I'm done with the whole program I'm writing. So just give me the results. So that's what that means. So when I'm saying like I'm writing a little program, it's gonna be doing that. It doesn't do it step by step. It's gonna take note of everything it wants me to do, then it's gonna give me the results. You know what I'm saying? It's actually been done in stages like what I've explained before. Like it's been done in stages, but this return 0, it means I'm done with all the program. This is the end. So it's just like the final full stop, just like when you're writing a summary where you put or let's say you're writing an essay, and then you say conclusion. So at the conclusion part, we know that you're trying to tell us that this is the end of every information you're trying to write or you're trying to share. So this is what it means. So return 0, it means I'm done writing the program. So he's going to execute what I'm asking him to do. So this is just an example of one problem that people normally run to, and another problem is this curly bracket. We call it brace. So this brace, sometimes they open this brace and then they forget to close this brace. So let me run this now, and let's see if it's going to throw error. So now we've seen that it throws error. And so you need, C needs you to be perfect. It needs you to give him everything he needs to understand what you're telling him to do. So if you open a bracket, it means you are trying to you are trying to write a program, you are trying to write a statement, and if you don't close this bracket, it means you're not done. So C still don't know what to do. It doesn't know, um it can't do it because it feels like you're not done writing your program. So you have to close every bracket, and that's a major. And another problem people make here is this. Sometimes they forget this, and they just write include um stdio.h. This is, let's see what happens. So now you guys have seen that it throws error again, and the reason why it throws that error is because when you don't write this, when you don't put hatch, C doesn't know what you're talking about. It doesn't know what this is. So if you write include stdio, it doesn't know if it does not know if you're trying to tell him to locate a library. So this hatch tell him that you you're trying to point into this library, then it's going to go to the library and bring functions, every tools it needs to execute this program. So this arch is actually for library, so you're trying to tell him, so he knows from this arch. So this arch means the whole thing you write here, you're trying to refer to a library. So if you don't put arch, it's not gonna know nothing, and then it's gonna give you error that I don't know what you mean by include stdio.h. So these are the common errors people make, and sometimes they forget to put this also. And let's try this and let's see what happens. Now you guys have seen that it throws error like it doesn't know, it's undefined. Hello world is undefined, it doesn't know what it is, because that's what I said in my first video, that every symbols you use has meaning, and C needs these symbols to understand what you're trying to tell him to do. So if you don't put this, then C doesn't know if you're trying to tell him to say hello. It doesn't know, it does not know this. You have to put this to let him know that this is what you want him to say. If not, C is just gonna assume that this hello word is something else. You are not telling him to say it, it's something else. Maybe he has to look for it, or it's a variable, or it's a number, or it's a character that he has to look for. So it does not know what you want him to do with this hello word. So these are the common mistakes as we move on with this lesson. We're going to be understanding why these errors are coming out and why we have these errors. And when we write our program, we're gonna know, we will be able to actually predict if we're gonna have error. And if you have error, understanding all this scenario makes you easily fix problems. So let's say you write a program and your program is giving you errors, you can actually easily know where the problem is coming from. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'm gonna be explaining more